Great decorating is all about the details, including a gorgeous textured set of coasters. How we love a coaster. Functional. And why not be beautiful? Quince has a gorgeous set of woven rattan coasters in 3 terrific colors with their own little holder that you're going to absolutely love. And if you haven't visited quince.com/DTT yet, get on over there. It's everyday elevated living without the markup. From crisp 100% linen bedding and soft organic cotton towels to airy curtains and premium kitchen tools designed for everyday use. And the best part? Like Quince's clothing, their home goods are half the cost of similar brands. By partnering with top artisans, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. Elevate your space with home essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/DTT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/DTT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DTT. Get yourself a cup. Today we're talking coffee tables. Hey everybody, it's Kelly Wilkniss here with Anita Joyce, and this is Decorating Tips and Tricks. And today we're discussing how to choose the perfect coffee table.
Yes, and this is a fun one. There's so many options for a coffee table. It really is amazing just all the variety that is possible.
One would think that two people couldn't talk for 40 plus minutes about a coffee table, but we're going to prove those people wrong today.
That's true.
So what is the coffee table, or perhaps a cocktail table? It's kind of one and the same these days, but there is a little history of the cocktail table, and that kind of came around in the 20s, think a little Prohibition era. It was lower, rectangular, or square, and it was for cocktails, books, and of the day, ashtrays. So picture something a little lower than what you'd be sitting on, or people gathering around in a speakeasy or something like that. The coffee table came around with my pals, the Victorians, and that was round or oval. It was probably higher than what we're used to now, and over time it got lower to accommodate our 20th and 21st century sofas. So if there was any question, but hey, if you want to get a cocktail while we talk about coffee tables, that's totally fine with us too.
Numbers to think about when you're choosing a coffee table is that typically you are looking for something about 2/3 the length of the sofa, and typically they are 17 to 19 inches in height and 3 to 4 feet wide.
Those are great numbers and dimensions to keep in mind for sure when you're shopping in person or online for a coffee table. But first, I would say, and you may agree with this, Anita, you got to take into consideration your furniture and your configuration. So the coffee table wouldn't be the thing I'd start with in a room unless I was given something and it was fabulous, or I guess if I found some antique and I knew I could never get it again and I had to have this coffee table. But in most cases, I wouldn't suggest anybody starts designing a room with the coffee table, because the sofa and maybe the accent chairs and things like that are going to really dictate how you're going to set up the room and how it's going to be configured. And I think that makes a big difference as to not only the size of the coffee table, but also, is it square? Is it rectangle? Is it round? Is it oval? Is it nesting?
Oh, I totally agree with you. And that is the place to start, I think, is with your other pieces, choosing those first. Typically, people do already have things in the room, and maybe they're just looking to replace that coffee table. And so then, like you said, then you're going to think about what shape you want. Do you want round, rectangular, square, oval, free form? Do you want something nesting? I mean, all these are decisions that go into what's going to work best in the room. And do you want an ottoman or an actual coffee table? Are you mainly using
that was coming?
I know, but I don't actually have an ottoman in my living room right now. But I do like an ottoman because People do put their feet up they do like to put their feet up. So if you are going to put your feet on it, think about an ottoman instead of a coffee table. If you don't put your feet on it, then I wouldn't necessarily consider an ottoman. I would go for the actual coffee table.
And what I love about a coffee table and what it can do for a room is this. I think a coffee table is a great piece where you can add in that little tension that we love to see in a well-designed room. Your coffee table can be different, very different sometimes, from your other furnishings. And most times you can get a coffee table at a pretty reasonable price. I have some today. I kind of went on the more of the splurgy end today, but I do have one that's super reasonable. So it might not cost you a whole lot of money, whereas if you wanted to replace your sofa, to modernize and freshen your room, that's going to cost you a lot of money. Even a great accent chair can cost a little bit more than some of these coffee tables. So if you need to freshen up, if you're feeling like everything in your room is of one era, or everything in your room was somebody else's and it got handed down to you and you just like to shake it up and add a little bit more of your own personality, or like I'm saying, if you feel like the need to sort of add that little tension to make the room more interesting, the coffee table is a great piece to do that with.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I think this is kind of the piece of furniture that people ignore. I don't see a lot of really good coffee tables out there in homes. I think it's just forgotten, or it's just, oh, I bought that 20 years ago, so I'm just going to keep that. And this is kind of the thing in the center of your room. So you're missing an opportunity to really bump your room up to the next level if you go with a gorgeous table. So think about if yours needs to be replaced. And one of the things like I like to think about is the color of the coffee table. I see a lot of coffee tables that are kind of like a dark espresso wood. And in most cases, that's not really an up-to-date look for a room. I think ends up looking dated.
Yes. I don't like any coffee table that feels like a big thud. Now, there is the caveat that there are some of these freeform ones, like Anita mentioned, the possibility of a freeform shape out there that are either maybe a burnished metal or they're marble, and they are super cool. But if you're talking about something that's just a big giant piece of wood that's kind of either squared off or rectangular, and it's just going to sit there, and maybe it's got some even enclosed shelving, or it's got some doors on it. Like that just feels like a big thud, I think, in the room. And think about it, in a living room, a family room, TV room, den, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of big pieces because you usually have a sofa. Maybe you even have a big sectional. Maybe you have another chair and everything's going to the floor. I think the coffee table is a great opportunity to sort of lighten the visual noise, lighten the weight. And so I like to see a coffee table that's got legs, that maybe is even just made out of metal and glass, something that is a little bit easier on the eye and doesn't take up a big amount of space.
Well, I've seen some that are kind of, you might say kind of heavy, like a solid piece, but it's fluted around the edge, black and round. And that is stunning and gorgeous. And I think that would work. But I think what you're talking about is maybe something that you might see in a kind of a hotel lobby, not a fancy hotel, but just kind of, you don't want that kind of look, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You want it to look very unique and beautiful. And I get it. Maybe you're putting your feet on it. Maybe your kids are using it, but it's really nice to have something elegant there. And do I mean traditional? It can be, but even modern. I think modern looks great mixed with a traditional room. I think you don't have to go exactly with the whole tone of the rest of the room. This is kind of the centerpiece. And I think sometimes it's fun to have a little tension. And maybe if it's a traditional room, go with something contemporary as for your coffee table.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about with this great tension. And it's a really great piece that you can do that with. You can do it with lamps. You can do it with side tables too. But these accent pieces or even an accent chair. But the coffee table is a great piece to do this with. So do you want to get into talking about the different aspects of the coffee tables now, like the shape and proportion and all of that? I know you gave us some great numbers to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, sure, go ahead.
Let's focus on shape first. So you do want to have the space, know what you need to fill, and see what the configuration of your seating is going to be. Even if you don't have all the seating purchased or you're waiting for it to arrive, you'll have the dimensions. Most likely you could tape it out if you need to do that. But if you can just visualize it, that would be great too. But you want to think about what shape is going to work best with the configuration of seating that you're doing. So with a sectional, traditional L sectional, like a square fits in there really nicely, right? So think about things like that. If you had a big sectional and then you wanted to do a smaller round, well, that's probably not going to really work. So it not only has to sort of fill the space that's available, work with the furniture that you have or you're going to have, and the proportions have to be right. Great option is a nesting table if you want it to be a little bit bigger. You can pull them away from each other. If you want to pick it up and move it around the room, you can do that if you needs be. But that's a really nice type of coffee table to have because you've got some flexibility there. I love being able to work in a circle in any design because we have a lot of 90-degree
That's your
angles.
favorite, the round coffee table.
I love the round coffee table. But as I said a minute ago, it's not going to work with all configurations.
Right.
So if you had 4 chairs around, a round coffee table could be perfect. If you had a smaller sofa with even 2 chairs flanking, round could be great. But if you're talking about a big sectional and you want people on all ends of it to be able to reach down and put a glass down or something, a round's not going to work for you.
Well, but I think also keep in mind the size of the room. If you have a very large room, you might want one of those oversized coffee tables or oversized ottomans. I think those are beautiful. But if you have a small space, then we're really talking about a smaller, more delicate piece, like what you're talking about, like a glass and brass coffee table.
Yeah. And Anita mentioned it, I think, in the beginning that the sofa should be so the ratio of 2/3 of your length of your sofa. So just for a quick example, if your sofa is 84 inches long, your coffee table should be somewhere around 56 inches. So, that can be give or take, but it shouldn't be too small. It has to be in proportion. The scale has to be right.
That's something we see a lot. We see a lot of coffee tables that are too small for the sofa. So really think about that. And to be honest, it's hard to find a coffee table over 48 inches long.
You're absolutely right. I was looking for a client recently because it's a very big room with very high ceilings. And we're going to have 2 big Restoration Hardware sofas that are over 100 inches long each.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah, you almost have to have it made because it's just you're not going to find that.
You can go with 2. You're right. If you find something you love, it's square, it's not big enough, you can put 2 there. That is definitely an option as far as size-wise. Right. Yeah, I think that's something to think about. And in addition to the size and the shape, think about, is it a formal or casual room? Because that is going to dictate what you do in there too. And you can have some tension there and go a little up or down as far as whether it's more casual or formal, but you don't want it to be too off. If you have, Louis XVI chairs in there, I don't know that you want a rattan coffee table in there. So I think it does you do have to take into account the formality of the room.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about the rattan and that. I would definitely not do that, but I think you could do something super modern with something that's very ornate and formal. And
right. Well, that's what I was saying earlier. You can mix that for sure.
And then we talked about proportion, but part of that too is the height. Anita gave us the great idea of some dimensions to keep in mind with regard to the height, but then you have to think about, well, what is the height of your sofa or your other chairs or places to sit in the room. So in keeping with proportion, not only is the length correct, but also the height. Anita gave us an idea of some dimensions to keep in mind. It's how tall the coffee table can be, should be. But you also have to take it into consideration how tall is your sofa or your chairs, because you do not want the coffee table to sit lower than 3 inches or higher than an inch or so, because then it becomes awkward for a person
when you
to
say,
reach down.
So just to clarify what you said, it shouldn't be lower than 3 inches less than your sofa cushions,
right.
or more than 1 or 2 inches higher than your sofa cushions.
Thank you for the clarification. Yes.
Yeah, and then you don't want your sofa to be too far from the coffee table, so you want about an 18-inch clearance there for walking through. And you don't really need anything more than that.
It does sort of figure in as how the room is set up. You could cheat that a little bit if that would be a really awkward way to walk through the room. I'm thinking my own living room, which is long and narrow, and then I have the sofa and the coffee table. There's no way I would go between the sofa and the coffee table and back around it and then through to the dining room, right? I can clear all of that and just go right through the room. So if you've got a room where it would make sense to sort of walk all around the coffee table to get to various places in the room, I think you definitely want to be very conscious of having a nice open path. 18 inches would be great. 14 probably okay. But if you're sort of having it in a situation where it's tucked away a little bit like mine, you can probably cheat that one a little bit. Hey, we'll be right back with the rest of the show, but keep listening so we can continue bringing you DTT. I can't stop using dupe.com. This is an amazing website, service, best friend. I absolutely love it. So you find something that you really want and it's too expensive, it's a budget buster. Then you use dupe.com and you can find almost the exact thing or very similar products for much less. So I was crushing on this incredibly gorgeous coffee table. I had it in my mind, I had it in my Pinterest boards, I had it everywhere, but I just didn't have it in my house because it was too expensive. When I learned about dupe.com, that was the first product that I tested. And boy, did I find some amazing dupes. And I purchased one. So the original was almost $3,000. And Dupe showed me many choices, all the way down to under $200. Now, you may think something this extraordinary is hard to use, but it's so easy. Just type dupe.com/ before any product URL in your browser, and boom, it instantly finds you less expensive alternatives. They even have an app and a browser extension you can download. No account required, no sign up required. It's completely free. That's completely free free to use. Stop wasting your money on brand names and start saving with dupe.com today.
And another thing I see with these coffee tables is when they look too chunky for the space, too chunky for the furniture, that can really make the room look off. So look at your legs on your sofa, on your chairs, and just see if you feel like it goes with the legs on your coffee table. That's why I'm saying the wood coffee tables you just have to be a little more careful with them. There are some gorgeous wood tables out there, but just make sure they're not looking too chunky for the space. And then if you want to go with glass or a mirror coffee table, they tend to be a little more light and airy and tend to have the brass legs. Those tend to be a little more on the more elegant side. And you can really get those for a song. There's a lot of those that are very inexpensive. And I just want to go through a few more options here. If you want to go for acrylic, that does scratch easily, but it looks great in a contemporary space, or it can bring a fresh look to a very traditional space. And then metal tables you can get in stainless, aluminum, nickel, gold, brass, or copper. That's a fun look. That's going to go with a lot of different furniture. Or you can go with, if it's a casual room, I think you can go with something like rattan. I think that's a nice look. And then, like you said, if you need to save space, go for a nesting table where one kind of fits partially in one. Or maybe I found a set where the bigger one sits on top of the smaller one, and the smaller one is hidden when you don't need to use it. You can use a lift top if you need some hidden storage. Although, again, that's beginning to sound a little chunky to me. And then there's the display coffee tables where it's kind of like you're in a museum. You can see the stuff. It's under the glass. So that's an option as well.
And your faves, the ottoman.
Well, that is my favorite because I just feel like that's the most flexible. You can put your feet on it. It's extra seating. If you want to put drinks on it, you just put a tray on it and then you're all set. That's why I love an ottoman, because I feel like it is so flexible.
One of my coffee table pet peeves, which is maybe my only coffee table pet peeve, is I do not like the bottom shelf.
I know you don't like the bottom shelf. You have spoken of it many times.
I just think it's a place that collects not only dust, but it collects things. And oftentimes it's not things that are there for beautiful design. They're just things that land there, like magazines or old newspapers or toys or what have you.
Then you're not going to like some of my selections for today, so just move on past them.
Well, that's just my pet peeve.
Right.
It's the beautiful thing that people are different, and that's what makes the world go round. But for my taste, I think that just have the first layer, the top, and that's enough, certainly enough to decorate. And in fact, even if you're doing the decorating well on the top and bottom shelf, it's just might be just too much, because you're going to be compelled. It's kind of like people that feel compelled to put something above the kitchen cabinets. It's going to be hard to just leave that empty for most people. Or maybe you put a stack of design books or something, but is that really doing a lot to your room? And then you have to clean it and dust it. And if it's glass, you have to worry about finger marks and things like that. So for myself, I don't like the bottom shelf. So I stay away from that. I do like simple modern lines for a coffee table or something that's just going to be, make a little pow statement in the room. I think it's such a great opportunity to do that. On the other end of the spectrum, it is an item that's really easy to thrift and consign and then DIY. You can get an old traditional coffee table, maybe something that was part of a mahogany set or something like that. And you could paint it, you could lacquer it, and you could make it really interesting and different and create some tension and create some interest and really do it for, under $100.
Well, in our vacation rental house, I found an antique trunk, and it's just fun. And you know what? If anybody dents it, I don't even notice.
Right. And I don't think we're going to get too far into this today because we're talking really about, the logistics of purchasing a coffee table and setting it up and what you should look for at those aspects of it. But what a fun place to style. So if you don't have a coffee table and your room could use one, go get one, because what a fun place to do what we all love is to let your creativity run wild and do some beautiful vignetting and designing. I love to, particularly say if we thought of a rectangular coffee table. So you kind of think of the two ends of it in a sense. I love to have a stack of books, design books usually, and then I like to have a tray kind of like artfully askew, and then maybe a bigger piece like a vase or some piece of decor that's interesting, and then maybe a candle and maybe another little item. So we've got 3 things sitting on the tray, and that's just a lovely way to design it. And then it's also easy if in my house, we don't have an ottoman. We have a coffee table that has a hard surface. But if we're going to watch a movie in there or something on the iPad, I just whisk the items off. The tray comes off. The stack of books comes off. We usually throw a toss pillow on there. So then when you can put your feet up and you're all set. So the tray makes it easy to then take the things off when you want to use the coffee table either for food or drinks or feet.
Okay. Or just have an ottoman. And then you're done. But whatever. Well, I am ready to go on to my selections for coffee tables. Are you ready?
Yeah, let me hear it.
Okay. So the first one is called a Braylon floor shelf coffee table. So as with the name implies, there is a shelf at the bottom. So basically there's a round piece of wood that sits on the floor and a round piece that sits on the top. And there are gold finished aluminum supports around. So there's like 4 supports. So it's kind of open air under there. And I thought it was really pretty contemporary, but I think it would go with traditional things as well. It's around $300 and 42 inches in diameter.
Oh, that's a good size.
Yeah, I thought so.
I'm kicking off with a Lux for Less that I just can't even believe. I'm trying to figure out how I can get this coffee table into my life. Okay, I have been enamored of the Thaddeus collection at Restoration Hardware. It's usually glass topped. You can also get a marble version, but the metal is so simple, but it's forged. It really looks like someone made it by hand. It's just not a smooth metal, and they have it in different tones of burnished brass. They have it in a forged pewter. They also have it in black. Absolutely beautiful. So like this would be my dream coffee table, but at maybe $5,300 for the 36-inch square. I haven't gone there, but I was Googling around, getting prepped for this episode, and what do I find from our friends at Safavia but the Jessa forged, stick with me, metal coffee tables with either glass or marble tops in the same variety of finishes, and it's really the same forging. Now, I haven't seen Jessa in person. I have seen Thaddeus in person, but I have zoomed in and looked all around and read the reviews, and people are saying that Jessa is, if not a twin, a very close sibling to Thaddeus for a lot less. Like the biggest Jessa is somewhere between $700 and $800.
Whoa. We got to check this one out.
And you know what, Anita? I had never gone to the Safavia site itself.
Oh, I guess I don't either. Well, they're everywhere. That's why I don't make it over there. And that was the price there. Wow.
Well, the thing is, I was like, why don't they have the price here on the site? They have all the pictures and the descriptions and all of that. But when you click buy, it takes you to then another page where you can click through to Overstock, Amazon, all the places that Safavia is sold. So they don't sell it through their own site. They use these third parties to sell it to you. So that's why I'm saying it's somewhere between $700 and $800, because you could click through maybe the 5 or 6 places that they offer it and then get the best price.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
It's so beautiful. And also,
I can't wait to see it.
Just say they have not only the round coffee table, square, and rectangle, they have a console table. They have a variety of side tables, and obviously they're a lot less. So maybe the side tables are around $300. They're gorgeous.
Okay. But don't buy all of them for the same room.
Don't buy all of them for the same room. Exactly.
Right. Okay. So my next one is a Naya 4-leg coffee table. This one is also wood. It's mango wood, but it's kind of a little more delicate, and it's got a lower shelf and the wood top. The thing that's different about it is that it has fretwork on 2 sides. 2 sides are open between the top and the shelf, and then 2 sides are enclosed with this fretwork that really has a pretty look. It kind of looks like a kind of the colonial look, not American colonial, but kind of like the Bahamas, that kind of look, like, you would need a breeze blowing through there. It's really pretty. It's 34 by 34, and the wood is almost like a pickled wood. It looks like it's got some white wax that's kind of pushed into the grain like a cherusing, although the wood itself is not a dark wood, whereas when you cherouse, sometimes it's a dark wood. But this is really pretty, and about $500.
Nice. Okay, my next one is from Anthropologie, which I know you love. It's the Oscarine Lucite rectangular table. It's gold and lucite. They're saying that the lucite is refractive, so you're going to get like a little shimmer from that. And then the legs are cast brass, and that's the base. And there's also an X going through the bottom. It's really good looking. And that is not inexpensive. It's about $950, but maybe you look for sales if you're really into that one at Anthro.
Oh, that sounds nice. Now, this one I think you would like, except that it does have the shelf. I didn't really care whether it had one or not, but this one just did. But this one is a brass table, and it has those stretcher bars at the bottom, and it's got a glass top and then a glass shelf underneath. But it looks like you said, like forged brass. I don't know that it is, but it's really pretty, and it's probably a little bit nicer than some of the cheap ones, because this one is almost $1,000 and it's 38 inches long. So this is, more of a high end brass and glass coffee table, which you can get something much cheaper, but it's not going to look this nice. The legs look kind of turned.
Mm-hmm.
So it really does have some really pretty detail on it.
Right. Yeah. No, sometimes you can really tell with an item whether you spent a little bit more. And I think on some of the brass and the metal finishes, you can. In the black, oftentimes you can't really tell whether it's a little higher end or not. But the brasses, they're just because there can be just so many different colorations and the way it's formed, right? So you do have to be a little careful with that. Here's one that for me is, I don't want to say clunky. That's a bad word because I picked it and I do really like it. But it's definitely has more heft than a coffee table that I would necessarily gravitate towards, but it's beautiful. It's by Bunny Williams for Ballard. It's raffia wrapped with a glass top. And it's just got a really interesting shape to it. There's a little cut in, and then it kind of has these little horseshoe feet. It's really lovely. So if you pop over to Ballard, check it out. I think there might be a couple of sizes, but the one I looked at was 1,200.
Oh, very nice. So I mentioned some nesting tables where the smaller one fits under the larger one and hides if you wanted to. And these are the set for $479. They're solid, and these are actually made from MDF, but they have a high gloss finish, so it's kind of a lacquered finish. And the thing I liked about these, the nesting I think is a nice option, and then they come in a lot of different colors. So if you have a very colorful room, there is a set of blue tables. They also have white and black. So I think this would be a very interesting look for your room. And this was more toward the budget price range.
Oh, those sound really cool. I would just say get your coasters out and enforce the rule, because MDF does not like to get wet, right? Even if it's got a lacquer finish, something sits there for too long. This table I love, and we almost went for it with a client of mine, but she has little kids and she was a little worried about the pointiness of the Starburst, but it is so cool. It's a Starburst coffee table from West Elm. It's on the smaller side, 34 inches. And it's round. I could picture this in a smaller configuration. Maybe you've got 4 chairs around, or a smaller sofa, love seat with 2 chairs. It is very bold. It's very modern. It's glass, and it just sits on almost like the Starburst, kind of like a sea urchin, if you can picture that, just kind of spikes of the metal coming out all around. It is fun. So fun. Makes such a statement, but again, not a lot of visual noise. And that one is $499. So it's pretty great price for something that's really going to add a lot of interest to your room. Well,
my next table is super budget friendly then. This one is $252, and they're calling it a sled table. I'm going to call it, it looks to me more like a bed tray. So it's brass or gold, whatever you want to call, on the sides. So it kind of has, I guess they're calling it a sled because the sides are kind of like, they go along the floor like a sled or like a bed table. You can think about it, you see. And then the front, and those are on the sides, and the front and back are open. And then it's a mirror top. And then it's got the brass sides with kind of the fretwork on it. It's not fret, but it's kind of, some iron kind of scrolly look kind of on the sides. It's very nice.
You definitely got me intrigued with that one. That sounds really good. Okay, super budget. This is ultra super budget then, from Walmart, from the Better Homes and Gardens collection. I myself, because I was a Better Homes and Gardens style maker, I have this table. It's only $108. And it's a pretty great table. I have it out in the barn now. Lots of kids out there, stuff like that. I don't really care what they do to it. But you can't do much to it. It's glass and brass. But here's what we're saying. It's not brass, right? It's metal with some sort of gold coating on it. It's not going to be the fattiest collection from Restoration Hardware type of brass, but it's perfectly fine. And it's a round table. I think it's about 36. It's not all that big. It comes in a few pieces, super easy to put together. I think they also offer it in black. And it's a great price table. It's very simple. It does not have a bottom shelf. And it would work really in any decor.
Oh, that sounds nice. So from that end, we're going to go up to my splurge item. It's called the
Okay.
Boheme Coffee Table. Now, it's not like yours that was 5K, your splurge table. So this one's just around 2,000.
That was my comparative table.
Right. But you mentioned it. Right. So this is my splurge item. It's around 2,000. So it's on the high end, I would say, for a coffee table. It's 40 inches square. And this is so
good.
interesting. They're calling it a Belgian design with sculpted shaped legs. But I would almost call it like maybe Moroccan, maybe.
That seems like a big difference between Belgium
well, it's
and
a shape.
Morocco.
It's curved. It's got all these curves on the what do you call it? The skirting underneath on the sides and on the legs. It's all these curves. And then what they did was they took this wood piece, did all these cutouts, and then applied linen to it with like. So it kind of looks like plaster on the top, and they're calling it a grain sack white finish.
Stop it.
I know, I love grain sacks. So, and you do too. So it's kind of got a gray and white wash on it, but it comes on unevenly because of that linen finish on it. So it's really pretty. I was very taken with it. And I think it's just gorgeous.
And who makes that?
Hooker.
Oh, they make great furniture. My bookcase is Hooker. I mean, they've been around for forever.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I mean, everybody's got to go look at that. I mean, I got to see that.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
Okay. So what are we defining today?
We're defining a wet room. And this is actually a type of bathroom. So it's where you sometimes you have a freestanding tub in there that sits within a tiled shower area. That can refer to a wet room. It can also refer to a very small bathroom where there's a shower and the water just sprays all over. So it can get on the sink and the tub. But these wet rooms tend to be all tiled, and
it can also refer to when my daughter takes a shower.
Oh yes, we have that too. Yes,
yes, playing puddles.
That's right. That happens too, but that's an unintentional wet room.
Don't go in there with socks on.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So this is a situation where, and I am seeing this a lot in new homes where they're putting the tub in a very large shower. What does that do? I don't really know, but they're doing that. So that's one thing that's happening. Maybe if your kid's splashing a lot, you put them in your tub in there. I don't really know what the point is of that, but I have seen some very tiny bathrooms where they did it because the room was so small, the shower was so small that if you put a curtain there, you might feel really closed in. So at least now you're open to the whole bathroom. But then when you get out of the shower and maybe you want to sit down to dry off, you're going to sit on a wet toilet because the water's been splashing all over that. So that's what a wet room is.
Okay. Yeah, it's as it seems. It's a wet room.
Exactly.
Well, we were so excited to receive yet another voicemail, so please keep them coming. And this is from Diane. And Diane and Anita and I and Diane's husband had a fabulous consult not too long ago. And apparently we really helped them a lot get going on how to work with their very beautiful but very interesting and difficult spaces, because they have very high ceilings. They've got a fireplace that goes all the way up. They've got some really large windows. So we gave them some really great ideas, and Diane called and emailed to let us know that we put them on a great path. And as a result of our advice and then the advice that they took action on after the consult, they're going to go ahead and do the rest of their house. So she had a follow-up question, and we thought it would be fun not only to hear from Diane today, but answer her question.
Hi, this is Diane. I had a consultation with you back in November. I'm going to send you a companion email with some photos about my question. Quickly, we used crown molding in the hallway of the second floor, and that's visible from the living room below. We plan to plank the ceiling in the living room like you suggested and build some fake beams to cover the seams at the ends of the rows of the plank as well as around the perimeter of the room. Will that look okay, having beams and then the crown molding above? Hoping you can give me an answer. Thanks.
Yes, Diane, I think it's going to be perfectly fine. For one thing, if you're looking up at the ceiling and you're in the living room, you're really not going to see the ceiling over that loft area, which is your upstairs hallway that it's open to. So I don't think it matters that much. But I will tell you, I have an open concept living and kitchen and breakfast room area. I have beams throughout the breakfast room kitchen area, and I have crown molding in my living room, and it actually works very beautifully together. So it's not a problem. I think it's going to be fabulous, and you might want to just use a beam between them so that, just make sure that wherever it transitions from one surface to the other, that it just makes sense. And I think it will be beautiful.
Thanks so much, Diane. And we are so glad to hear that our advice helped, and send us after pictures because we want to see. If anybody else is interested in scheduling a consult with Anita and I, get on it because we are ready to talk to you. And it's so easy to do. You just go to decoratingtipsandtricks.com and click consult and sign yourself up. So what's your crush?
Well, you mentioned ThreadUp.
Mm-hmm. Did you get something?
No, I didn't, but I've been actually using a different site that I wonder if you know about that's resale, and it's designer items, and of course, discounted prices, and that is TheRealReal. Have you been using that one?
Oh, yeah, I know TheRealReal. That is fabulous. And they actually have a brick and mortar here on the west side.
Well, it's been great. I bought several things from them. I was wanting an Hermes scarf, but I didn't want to pay $500 for a scarf.
Is that where you got your Mother's Day scarf?
Yes, that's where I got it. It was and it's perfect condition. It was absolutely perfect condition. And they tell you what the condition is. And it came in the box, and it's just gorgeous. So yes, I'm very happy with that. But they have things from Tiffany's, Cartier, Rolex. Kate Spade bags, Longchamp. Just all these great brands. And, they're really, I think, some of the better prices. And there's quite a range in priced items. There's very high-end things that I am not going to be buying there. But, I've been looking at some Kate Spade bags there, too. I do have my Kate Spade collection, but...
yes, you do.
I can
always add to it.
I can always add to it. There's other things there, too. They've got shoes and clothes. So I think it's a great option. And I had an issue with something that didn't show up, and they were so good to work with, and they refunded my money pretty quickly when it didn't show up. And so I have to say they are I had a very good experience working with them.
Yes, awesome. And I would say that what we've done with them as well, really great experience. Good for you. That's fun. Definitely. They have a lot of higher end. They don't go too far down on the food chain, right? It's mostly high end stuff.
Well, they go down to, there's like Ralph Lauren, which, that's probably their lowest end that they go to, which is not, there's no problem with, Ralph Lauren's very nice, but obviously a lot cheaper than a Gucci, whatever.
Right. Okay.
So what's your crush?
Oh, my crush is something to watch. It's The Diplomat. It's on Netflix. It's with Carrie Russell. She was starring in The Americans, and I'm sure she's been in a lot of other things. I think she's so talented.
And Felicity.
Who's Felicity?
Well, she had that TV show Felicity a long time ago, right?
Oh, I don't even know that. She's in government. She's really not a diplomat yet. They want to make her a diplomat. She'd rather be out in the field. Anyway, it's great tension. And the guy who plays her husband is fantastic. They have really great chemistry. And you'll know him as well from some other things. So check out The Diplomat.
Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And remember, we're here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Until next time.
Want to talk to us? Well, we really want to talk to you. So let's schedule a design consult. Anita and I are here to give you individualized, actionable advice on how to create the beautiful home you want and deserve. It's so easy to schedule a design consult with us. Simply click the link in the show notes or head to decoratingtipsandtricks.com/consult. When we talk to you on the scheduled time, we will be ready with so many great tips, advice, and yes, tricks. So sign up today for a design consult. We can't wait to talk to you.